Hey guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Dena. I'm a graphic designer, digital artist, and content creator, and I make videos about design, art, and my life as a creative. In today's video, I'll be sharing the 3 top books that I think every creative should read at some point in their lives. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So I'll be doing kind of like a book review, so I'll share my thoughts on the 3 books by Austin Kleon. It's his trilogy book that every creative I feel like has to read at some point in their lives, just because it's so valuable and it's things that no one really teaches you in school. It's kind of like life lessons that you learn yourself, but learning from other people who have been through it is kind of a great way to accelerate your learning and your growth. So I highly recommend. Plus, they're also very good reference books to kind of look back on whenever you need a pick-me-up of inspiration or just creative life advice. And they're usually displayed on my bookshelf, as you can see in the background here, which was kindly sent to me by FlexiSpot, which is also today's video sponsor. They also did send me this standing desk that you see behind me, as well as this ergonomic chair that I'm sitting on, which I actually did a desk/workspace tour video of my setup if you want to watch that video here. But I've had this setup for quite a while now, and I've had no issues with it whatsoever. I've been loving the FlexiSpot products that I've been using the past couple of months, including their bamboo standing desk, which has been very convenient as I can switch from sitting to standing. Plus, this ergonomic chair that they sent me has really helped with my lower back pain, especially with the lumbar support that they have, and its flexibility and breathable material is just very comfortable to sit in, and the bookshelf kind of matches the whole setup and ties everything together. So I really love the way their products look in my setup, so I would highly recommend if you're looking to upgrade and style up your workspace. They're having a Black Friday/Cyber Monday sale going on right now with up to 60% off select items. So if I were you, I would take advantage of these deals before it's over, because it is a limited time only. So be sure to click that link in the description and buy something and treat yourself today. Thanks again to FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back into the video and dive into these books. Now, I love reading, and doing book reviews is a great way to kind of recap what I learned and kind of expand some of my thoughts on the things that I learned from the books. The life and creative advice that Austin gives in these books are super valuable to me, and I think something that I will continue to reference probably for the rest of my life. And these books are very cheap. It doesn't get better than that. Like, I think I bought all 3 of these for like less than 25 bucks. It's also not a hefty read either. These are pretty digestible books. They're like, about 200 pages each book, but as you can see, they're pretty small and the text is not too crazy. There's also a lot of cute little like pictures and kind of illustration that he has throughout the books, so it makes it very visually appealing to kind of continue reading on. This first book is called Steal Like an Artist, and he talks about the 10 things that nobody told you about being a creative. The 10 lessons that he gives are very practical principles in this book, and he really talks about how to discover and find your artistic style so that you can live a more fulfilling and creative life for yourself. One of the main lessons that he emphasizes is, as the book suggests, how to steal like an artist. He states that there's a right way and a wrong way to steal other people's ideas, because that's kind of the only way that we can develop our own artistic style, is by first copying what other people are doing. But there's a difference between copying for practice and copying in a plagiarizing way. So the way he distinguishes good stealing versus bad stealing is that good stealing would be studying and honoring other creatives, taking from multiple different sources for inspiration, and then kind of transforming and remixing it into your own style. Bad stealing, however, would be degrading or skimming other creatives, taking only from one source, plagiarizing, imitating, and just ripping somebody off. You essentially don't want to just straight up copy somebody's style, but rather steal the thinking behind the style to kind of get a better glimpse on how that person thinks and views the world, so that you can kind of use that for yourself and then execute it in your own style. Another thing that he talks about is to practice productive procrastination and always have some kind of side project going on. So if you're tired of one project, you can kind of bounce around from the other ones and kind of keep your creative juices flowing. He emphasizes the importance of having side projects, because more often than not, side projects are the ones that really take off, even though it was just for fun or things that you were messing around with. But in reality, that's actually the good stuff, because it's stuff that you're naturally doing on your own spare time, not because someone's telling you to. It just made me reflect on my own side projects and how some of the most successful projects that I have are from side projects or things that I initially didn't have any expectation of, And when those kind of like quote unquote blew up or, gained traction, it led to so many more opportunities for me, and I'm really grateful for that. But that's also something I try to keep in mind, to always have some kind of side project going on, kind of just for my own self and for my own sanity, to kind of keep my creative engine running. He emphasizes that the work that you do while you're quote unquote procrastinating on stuff that you actually need to do is stuff that you probably are meant to do, if that makes sense. It means that you're doing work that you like and are tapping into your more authentic self. That way the work doesn't really feel like work, it feels more like play, and the payoff is much greater. One of the last things I wanted to highlight in this book is when he talks about not throwing yourself away. Now growing up, I've always had like all these weird different interests that I felt never really connected, so I always felt like a jack of all trades, master of none type of deal. But he emphasizes that if you have more than, one passion, let's say you have like 3 different passions or multiple interests, it's important that you keep them all in your life. I always had this feeling that I had to niche down into one passion only, because spreading myself out too thin wouldn't be beneficial. Or at least that was the mentality that I thought. And because I felt like that, I felt an obligation to kind of double down on just one passion and kind of just focus on that one thing for the rest of my life. It felt reassuring that he mentions that you shouldn't feel obligated to throw all of your passions away in order to accommodate for one. He really encouraged that you keep all those passions in your life, even if they seem disconnected from one another, because you never know what could happen. In the book, he quotes, "Don't worry about unity from piece to piece. What unifies all of your work is the fact that you made it." The beauty of being yourself is that no one else is exactly like you. So from all your different quirks and interests and weird little nuances that you have, no one else has that except for you, so you might as well embrace it. You should keep them all in your life and practice them, because you'll find that things will end up connecting in some way and pay off in the long run. So the second book of the trilogy is called Show Your Work, and he talks about 10 ways to share your creativity and get discovered. He shares his thoughts on how you can put your work out there in the world, share your process so that you can attract people who are interested in your work, and grow your influence. Now, I've been in the content creation / sharing my work online for about over a decade now. I started when I was 13, which is kind of crazy to think about, but I started kind of mainly out of boredom, and I've always had this itch of just wanting to share my work online, ever since I was a young teen. This book is really helpful for me to reference now and then whenever I go through creative ruts or like imposter syndrome of feeling like my work isn't good enough to share with the world. So it's a really good book to kind of look back on whenever I'm feeling down or need a little pick-me-up. We've all heard the saying, be so good that they can't ignore you. But sometimes being good isn't good enough to have your work recognized. You also have to put in the effort by making it easy for people to find you and discover your work. One way to make it easy for people to find you is to share your process, your thoughts, and your knowledge online to the world. Try to provide as much value as you can, be of service to other people, and help in any way that you can. You have to do this from a genuine place and not starting it because you want to capitalize on it right away, because then it just doesn't feel genuine or authentic. So if you do choose to do this, you have to provide value without expecting anything in return. And over time, you will find that your audience slowly starts to build almost organically, because people will find what you do valuable or interesting or entertaining or just helpful and inspiring in some way. In the book, he quotes that the best way to get started on the path to sharing your work is to think about what you want to learn and make a commitment to learning it in front of others. I know it's a daunting thing to kind of put your work out there because there's a fear of being judged or criticized, or you feel like your work isn't good enough to show. The right audience and people will naturally gravitate towards that, and the wrong audience will criticize it or hate on it. And that's okay. It's kind of part of life, not everyone is meant to be a part of your life. Some people are just lessons that kind of come and go, or just passing by into your life. It's the same thing with creative work. Not every person will like your style, like your work, whatever. And the key is to also not get too attached to your work either. You have to realize that your work and who you are two different things, and learning to separate that is very important, because if you're too attached to your work, it's definitely gonna mess with your self-esteem and mess with your head, which is something that you don't want. So something I try to keep in mind to kind of overcome that fear of being judged or criticized is that I know that what I'm sharing or posting is coming from a good place and authentically me. And I hope that, what I share is helpful or inspiring to others, And that fulfillment overpowers the fear of being judged or criticized. And if people are hating on you in the first place, they're not the right people for you anyway. So it's a good way to kind of weed out the wrong type of people in your life. Something else that he really emphasizes in this book is that if your work is not online, it does not exist in this day and age. We live in a time where sharing things digitally online is easier now more than ever thanks to the internet. And it's such a privilege to have this opportunity to share our work to people outside of our geographical location. If you want people to know about what you do and the things you care about, you have to share. There's no shortcut or way around it. Another thing that I love that he mentions is the idea around death. It's something that I think about a lot too. And the idea of death scares me enough to make me want to do something with my life, kind of shake me into perspective of, hey, you're gonna die one day, and all these things that you fear of doing because you're scared of being judged or whatever, it won't matter in a couple of years. And if I can somehow leave this planet better than I found it and, inspire or help somebody in some way, shape, or form, then it's all worth it to me. So death is just a really good motivator for me to do things that I've always wanted to before I die, because I don't want to regret anything either. If all of this sounds scary or like a lot of work, consider this. One day you'll be dead. Most of us prefer to ignore this most basic fact of life, but thinking about our inevitable end has a way of putting everything into perspective. So the way that Austin wants to be reminded of death while still keeping it at an arm's length away is by reading obituaries. He says that reading about people who are dead now and did things with their lives makes me want to get up and do something decent with mine. Thinking about death every morning makes me want to live. And I think that's a great way to kind of reflect on your own life, evaluate it, and see what you want to do before your time is up. For me personally, I want to be able to share my work so that it stays online forever, so that even when my time is up, my work can still live on. So if you want your work to live on past your time, show your work to the world. And now the last book, Keep Going, where he talks about 10 ways to stay creative in the good times and the bad. It's easy to be discouraged, especially in the bad times when things seem like they're not going your way. And it's easy to just want to give up altogether. But realize that your life has on and off seasons as well. In all honesty, creating does not get easier no matter how long you've done it. Austin quotes in the book that creative work is hard, life is short, and art is long. He points out how the creative life is not linear, but rather it's kind of like a spiral or a loop to where it always has a reset button every time you start a new project. And there really never is a stopping point in the creative path, no matter how quote-unquote successful you are. It's a matter of showing up every single day, treating it as a ritual, and incorporating it into your daily routine somehow. The truly prolific artists that get ahead in life are the ones that consistently focus on their craft every single day. The hardest part about keeping the momentum going in the good times and the bad is by simply showing up and doing the work. I thrive in routine as it helps me structure my days and build good habits, so it's kind of like an automation process. And so therefore I have more freedom and space to do my best work. As artists and creators, silence and solitude are essential in our creative process. I love the way he puts things into perspective and how it's crucial to balance connection with people in order to get inspired to do your work, but also at the same time disconnecting from the world so that you can focus on doing your best work without distraction. You must retreat from the world long enough to think, practice your art, and bring forth something worth sharing with others. You must play a little hide and seek in order to produce something worth being found. And with that time that you carve out to create in, solitude and silence, it's important to also have a sacred time or space that kind of acts as a creative incubation for you. Another thing I highlighted in this book is when he says, the great artists are able to retain the sense of playfulness throughout their careers. Art and the artist both suffer most when the artist gets too heavy, too focused on the results. I think he makes a great point about this because in this career path, a lot of artists are seen as quote-unquote starving artists, and people will often suggest that you try to monetize or capitalize on your passion as fast as possible in any way you can. While I do agree to some certain extent because, you do need to make a living to put a roof over your head and pay the bills, there's a certain point where you can get too caught up in the numbers and revenues or the followers or the likes and all that. Because then it starts to feel like work or like an obligation. It starts to feel less like something that you used to be passionate about or something that you did just for fun. Now, I've been guilty of this as well, so this was a really great reminder for me. While measuring results is important in order to see where you're at and kind of set goals to where you want to go, there has to be a balance. Also, when you stop focusing on quantitative results, you start focusing more on qualitative results, and you start to ask yourself, is this work that I actually like? Is it good? Is this something I want to share to the world? Does it make me happy? Things that, are more for your soul, and that's something that just can't be measured. And lastly, I want to stress how he highlights the importance of moving your body and exercising and going for walks. As artists and creatives, I feel like we're so used to sitting at a desk or at a table, staring at screens for hours on end, or at a piece of paper or whatever material you're working on, and we often forget to go outside. That's why for me personally, I've made it a habit to try to go to the gym and exercise 5 to 6 times a week, because it helps me with my mental health for one, and two, it actually makes me perform better creatively. And you don't have to do crazy exercising. It could be just as simple as walking outside, as it's good for your mental, physical, and emotional health. Art requires the full use of our senses. Its job is to awaken us to our sense. Our screens, on the other hand, have made us lose our sense. So whether you're exercising, moving your body, or just going outside to take a walk, it all stimulates your senses, which is great to keep yourself kind of grounded, connected to reality, and enjoy what nature has to offer. It's also a great way to kind of get inspiration or generate new ideas when you're doing something as simple as taking a walk. So it's also good if you carry a notebook and a pen around, so that you can jot those fleeting thoughts before they're gone forever, or have a camera to take pictures of whatever is inspiring you in the moment. So I think that about wraps up this video. I hope that this book review was somewhat interesting, or maybe you gained some insight on things that I just kind of basically highlighted or learned from the book, and I just wanted to share it with you. So I hope that it was helpful in some way. I would love to know your thoughts, and if you like these book reviews, let me know in the comment section below. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.